Beneath the world's most sacred sites lies a hidden history of technology. From the pyramids of Giza to the temples of Angkor Wat, these holy grounds guard revolutionary inventions lost to time. You are about to discover 35 of these buried marvels. By the end of this journey, your entire perception of ancient history will be completely transformed. We will uncover why a perfect crystal lens was sealed inside a Mayan pyramid, and what mysterious energy source might still be active deep below the Giza Plateau. How much of our past remains hidden in plain sight, waiting just beneath our feet? These hallowed grounds were never meant to be simple monuments. They were living libraries of energy and information. Ancient cultures perceived the world in a way we are only beginning to comprehend, sensing invisible currents that flowed through the earth itself. They built their most sacred temples and pyramids at the precise points where these terrestrial energies were believed to be most potent. Think of these locations not as random spots on a map, but as spiritual power plants, as natural amplifiers for human intention and cosmic connection. This is why a site like Delphi in Greece was considered the navel of the world, or why certain mountains are revered across countless traditions. The ground itself was seen as alive, and building upon it was a form of communion. It was this profound, symbiotic relationship with the planet that made these places the ultimate vaults. If you possessed a technology of unimaginable power, a secret that could reshape the world, where would you hide it? You would place it within a sacred fortress, guarded not just by stone and ritual, but by the very energy of the earth. The spiritual significance of the site provided a layer of protection far more resilient than any physical lock. It commanded reverence, it deterred the unworthy, and it encoded the secret within a context of divine mystery. This is the foundational truth we must carry forward. The inventions we seek were not merely stored, they were integrated, becoming one with the sacred power of the place that shelters them. Deep beneath the island of Malta, a labyrinth of carved stone holds a secret that hums with invisible power. The Hypogeum is a sprawling underground temple complex, a sacred site dating back over 5,000 years. Within its deepest chambers, something extraordinary happens to the human voice. A mere whisper can be heard with perfect clarity across a vast room, and certain frequencies resonate through the ancient limestone with such force that they are felt physically in the bones. This is not a happy accident of architecture. It is the first of our hidden inventions, an acoustic resonator of breathtaking sophistication. The builders of the Hypogeum did not just carve rooms, they engineered them. They shaped the walls and ceilings with a precise understanding of sound wave physics, creating spaces that amplify specific vibrational frequencies. When chants or drum beats filled these chambers, the very air would vibrate at frequencies between 90 and 120 Hz. Modern research has shown that these particular sounds can directly influence human brain activity, shifting consciousness into a more receptive, trance-like state. Imagine the experience not with our modern understanding, but through the eyes of an initiate thousands of years ago. You descend into the earth, into a sacred space that seems to come alive with sound. The chant of a priestess does not just reach your ears, it enters your body, calming your mind and opening your perception. This was a form of technology, a conscious manipulation of the environment to achieve a specific psychological effect. The mathematical precision required to achieve this acoustic perfection seems to defy the era. It reveals a people who pursued the mysteries of the mind not only through prayer and substance, but through the calculated physics of their surroundings. The Hypogeum stands as a monumental clue, a place where the ancient quest for transformation was literally set in stone, waiting for the modern world to finally listen. Beneath the echoing chambers of Malta, we find a secret even more profound, one that suggests the ancients did not merely manipulate sound, but harnessed the very pulse of the planet. Far below the iconic Sphinx and the pyramids of Giza, modern technology has begun to unveil a hidden world. Ground-penetrating radar scans have revealed anomalies, hinting at a labyrinth of unexplored tunnels and vast, empty chambers deep beneath the sand and stone. This is not a random collection of caves. Some researchers theorize these structures formed a colossal subterranean energy grid, a geomechanical battery of sorts. The concept is staggering. Telluric currents, which are natural electrical flows moving through the ground, could have been channeled and amplified by this carefully engineered network. Picture the Earth not as a solid mass, but as a living body crisscrossed with energetic veins. The builders of Giza may have learned to tap these veins, using the specific resonance of the limestone and granite chambers to store this power, much like a modern capacitor stores an electrical charge. But the true genius of this system may lie in its alignment. The key chambers and tunnels are not oriented randomly. They correspond with precise celestial events, the movements of stars like Sirius and the cycles of the sun. This points to a technology that did not simply draw power from the Earth in isolation. It was a unified system, one that synchronized planetary energy with cosmic cycles. The energy harvested during a solstice or a specific stellar alignment would have been fundamentally different, perhaps more potent, than the energy of an ordinary day. Why would such an advanced invention be buried and forgotten? The answer likely lies in its immense power. This was not a technology for lighting simple lamps. It could have been the power source for the entire plateau, energizing the pyramids in ways we can scarcely conceive, perhaps even facilitating the levitation of massive stone blocks or enabling communication across vast distances. To bury it was to protect it, to prevent a knowledge of such magnitude from falling into the hands of those who would use it for conquest and destruction. This hidden grid beneath Giza stands as a silent testament to a civilization that achieved a harmony with nature we are only now, with our quest for renewable energy, beginning to understand again. That same principle of protecting a dangerous technology brings us to a sweltering jungle and a sealed chamber in a Mayan pyramid. Here, archaeologists made a discovery that shatters our image of ancient tool-making. They found a small, perfectly polished disk of rock crystal. At first glance, it might be mistaken for a ceremonial object, but a closer look reveals its true nature. This is a lens, and its optical quality is stunning. It is not a crude magnifying glass. It is a precision instrument, ground and shaped with a technique that, according to our history books, should not have existed for another 1,000 years. This crystal could focus a beam of sunlight with such intensity that it could instantly start a fire, a power that would have seemed like magic to anyone who witnessed it. But was its purpose so simple? The Maya were master astronomers, tracking the cycles of Venus and the Moon with breathtaking accuracy. A lens of this caliber could have been the key to their celestial observations, allowing them to see celestial bodies and events invisible to the naked eye. Some researchers speculate its uses were even more profound. Imagine a skilled practitioner using a focused beam of light to perform delicate surgeries, cauterizing wounds with a clean, sterile heat. Or consider the possibility of signaling, using the sun's glare to flash coded messages across vast jungle distances. The true purpose may be lost, but the artifact itself is a silent rebellion. It defies the timeline of human progress we so comfortably accept. Why was this incredible object sealed away in the heart of a sacred structure? The knowledge of its creation was a form of power, and power must be guarded. To understand the grinding technique, to possess the mathematical principles of optics, was to hold a secret that could elevate a society or, in the wrong hands, become a terrifying instrument of war. The Maya chose to bury this secret, hiding a fragment of their advanced science beneath layers of stone and ritual, leaving behind a single, brilliant clue to a lost world of innovation. The art of illusion reached a divine level in ancient Greece, hidden within the very heart of its most sacred oracle, beneath the temple of Apollo at Delphi, where vapors rose from a fissure in the earth to inspire the Pythia's prophecies. A more tangible secret was kept. Fragmented texts and scattered accounts speak of something astonishing, not in the spiritual realm but in the mechanical. They describe intricate creations of bronze and copper, statues that moved with a fluid, lifelike grace. These were not static idols but hydraulic automata powered by a complex and hidden system. Water pressure, cleverly channeled from mountain springs, drove networks of gears and pistons concealed within the temple's foundations. Some legends even suggest the use of steam, harnessed from the same geothermal vents that fed the oracle's trance. Imagine a worshipper's experience, approaching the sanctum with a question for the gods. A bronze figure of a god might turn its head, its arm raising in a silent, majestic gesture. Another might appear to speak, its voice emerging from a hidden priest through a cleverly designed bronze trumpet. This was the ultimate fusion of technology and theater, designed to inspire absolute awe and reinforce the divine power of the oracle. The purpose was clear: to create an undeniable spectacle of supernatural presence. But the technology itself was the true marvel, a form of robotics that predates the famous Antikythera mechanism by centuries. It reveals a Hellenistic world teetering on the edge of an industrial revolution, a society with the engineering knowledge to build complex machines. So why was this incredible invention buried and lost? The reason was twofold: a dangerous knowledge that threatened both mortal and divine order. In the wrong hands, the principles behind these automata could be used to create weapons of war or to build machines that could displace human labor, destabilizing the entire economy. More importantly, for the priests who guarded the secret, the greatest threat was exposure. If the public understood that the moving, speaking statues were products of engineering and not divine magic, the entire authority of the oracle and the temple's immense political influence would instantly crumble. It would have been seen as the ultimate blasphemy, a trick played upon all of Greece. So the technology was deliberately suppressed, the blueprints destroyed, and the physical mechanisms likely disassembled and hidden deep beneath the temple floors. This was not a loss due to invasion or natural disaster, but a conscious choice to bury a technology deemed too powerful and too dangerous for the world to know, leaving behind only whispers of a mechanical miracle that once brought the gods to life. Far from the Mediterranean world, another civilization was perfecting a material science so advanced it defies easy explanation. Deep beneath the sacred Great Bath of Mohenjo-Daro, in the heart of the ancient Indus Valley, archaeologists uncovered a metal that should not exist. It was not simple bronze or copper, but a unique alloy, a super metal of unknown composition that showed almost no sign of corrosion after thousands of years. This was not a decorative trinket, it was a structural component, deliberately placed within the foundations of their most important communal and ritual space. The formula for this alloy was a state secret of the highest order, a metallurgical masterpiece that granted their architecture near immortality. Its properties were extraordinary. Not only did it possess a phenomenal resistance to rust and decay, but initial analyses suggest it may have also been an exceptional conductor of energy. Imagine a metal woven into the very bones of a city, a hidden network that could potentially channel telluric currents, much like the theorized grid beneath Giza, to stabilize and energize entire structures. The creation of this alloy reveals a breathtakingly sophisticated supply chain. Its constituent elements were not found locally. They were sourced from mines hundreds, perhaps even thousands of miles away, indicating a vast and meticulously managed trade network operating across the Indian subcontinent and beyond. This was not trade for gold or jewels, but a dedicated, purposeful quest for specific raw materials with precise chemical properties. The entire economic machinery of the civilization was, in part, geared toward acquiring the ingredients for this technological marvel. Why go to such lengths only to bury the final product in the foundations of a bath? The answer lies in control and preservation. By embedding their most advanced invention within their most sacred site, the ruling priestly class ensured its protection through reverence. The secret of the alloy died with them. Its burial was a final, decisive act to prevent a technology of immense civilizational power from being misused or reverse-engineered by rivals. This was not a loss of knowledge, but a deliberate entombment. The Indus Valley alloy stands as a ghost in the archaeological record, a silent testament to a material science that could have reshaped the ancient world, had it ever been allowed to see the light of day. That same impulse to encode knowledge in stone takes us to the misty hills of Ireland, where a grassy mound guards an invention that measured the cosmos itself. Newgrange is a massive, circular tomb older than the pyramids of Giza, and its secret is revealed for only a few precious minutes each year. Deep within its cruciform chambers, a narrow roof box, a slit perfectly engineered above the entrance, was designed for a single, spectacular purpose. At dawn on the winter solstice, a blade of sunlight pierces the darkness, traveling down a 60-foot stone passage to illuminate the central chamber in a golden burst of light. This is no simple light show. It is the heart of a sophisticated astronomical calendar carved from the earth. The alignment is so precise that even a slight miscalculation in the passage angle would have meant the sun's ray would miss its target entirely, a mistake the builders did not make. But the invention goes far beyond this single annual event. The curbstones surrounding the massive mound are not blank. They are covered in a complex language of spirals, diamonds, and zigzags. These are not random decorations, they are glyphs, a coded system for tracking time. Researchers now believe these carvings represent a long-term calendar capable of predicting not just solstices, but also eclipses and the complex cycles of the moon and planets over spans of thousands of years. This was a buried observatory and a computational device, using stone and sunlight to achieve a level of accuracy that would not be matched for millennia. Think of the knowledge required, a deep scientific understanding of celestial mechanics, of the gradual wobble in the Earth's axis known as precession. This was not a culture merely watching the sky, they were calculating its movements with mathematical rigor. Why hide such a powerful tool inside a tomb? The answer lies in the ultimate act of preservation. By interring this calendar within a sacred mound, the builders ensured its survival. It became a timeless clock, a legacy of knowledge that would outlive kingdoms and languages, ensuring that the vital rhythms of agriculture and ritual could be maintained across countless generations, even if the meaning of the glyphs was temporarily forgotten. The light at Newgrange was not just illuminating a chamber, it was illuminating a countdown to eternity, a secret kept safe in a tomb meant to last as long as the stars themselves. High in the Andes, the stones of Sacsayhuaman tell a silent, impossible story. These colossal blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, are fitted together with a seamlessness that defies logic, locking into a zig-zagging wall that has shrugged off centuries of powerful earthquakes. The conventional explanation of armies of laborers grinding these stones into shape with primitive tools feels suddenly inadequate. There is another, more revolutionary possibility, one that suggests the Inca, or a culture before them, possessed a seventh hidden invention. The stones were not cut, they were cast. The theory proposes a lost geopolymer recipe, a form of ancient, high-tech concrete. Imagine a workshop hidden in caverns beneath the sacred ground, where priests and engineers mixed a slurry of local limestone with a secret chemical activator, perhaps derived from plant extracts. This liquid stone could have been poured into wooden molds, hardening into blocks of any desired shape, fusing with the existing stonework to create those perfect jigsaw puzzle joints. This was not simple masonry, it was a form of alchemy, transforming earth into a super-material. The result is a construction that behaves as a single, monolithic entity during seismic activity, flexing and settling as one, rather than cracking and crumbling. Why would such a transformative technology be buried? The answer lies in the nature of power. For the Inca ruling class, this seemingly miraculous architecture was a physical manifestation of their divine right to rule. If the people believed the gods themselves had placed these impossible stones, their authority was absolute. But if it became known that this was a chemical recipe, a technology that could be learned and replicated, that power would instantly evaporate. The secret of the geopolymer was not merely lost to time, it was deliberately suppressed, the knowledge guarded by a select few, and then taken to the grave to preserve a system of control. The potential of this lost invention is staggering. A concrete that self-repairs, that bonds with natural stone, and that lasts for millennia could revolutionize our own modern construction, creating resilient cities and infrastructure. Yet it remains hidden, a ghost formula locked within the very stones of a mountain fortress, waiting for us to decipher its code. The seamless stones of Sacsayhuamon reveal a mastery over materials, but in the scorching deserts of ancient Persia, that mastery extended to controlling the very climate. Deep beneath the Zoroastrian fire temples, where eternal flames symbolized divine purity, engineers constructed a marvel of practical science, the Yakhchal. These were not simple cellars, but massive, conical ice houses that functioned as sophisticated subterranean refrigeration units. In the heart of a blistering desert, they produced and stored ice all year round. The system was an elegant dance of physics, relying on two brilliant inventions. First, wind catchers, tall towers that captured even the faintest breeze and funneled it down into the deep, insulated chambers below. Second, qanats, which were gently sloping underground aqueducts that channeled cold water from distant mountain aquifers. As the dry desert air was drawn down into the Yakhchal, it passed over the channels of this frigid water, causing rapid evaporation and a dramatic drop in temperature. The result was a passive cooling system so effective that ice could form even on summer nights, stored in a space kept perpetually frozen by the thick, mud brick walls that provided perfect insulation. This was not a technology kept in a warehouse, it was hidden directly beneath the most sacred sites. The placement was profoundly symbolic, linking the physical preservation of ice with the spiritual preservation of sacred fire and ritual purity. The knowledge of how to precisely angle a wind catcher or calculate the gradient of a qanat to maintain water flow without erosion was a state secret as valuable as any treasure. It allowed Persian societies to thrive, preserving food and medicine in an otherwise inhospitable climate, giving them a stability that must have seemed miraculous to outsiders. Why bury such a life-giving invention? Because its power was not merely in cooling, but in control. The priesthood that governed this technology held the key to survival in the arid landscape. To reveal its engineering principles would be to give away that ultimate authority. transforming a perceived divine blessing into a simple matter of thermodynamics and hydrology. This hidden refrigerator stands as a testament to a civilization that saw no conflict between the sacred and the scientific, seamlessly weaving them together to create a miracle of ice in the heart of the fire temple. The rolling plains of Salisbury hold a secret far older and more intricate than the stone circle we see today. Stonehenge is not a standalone monument, but the visible hub of a sprawling subterranean network. Recent geophysical surveys have revealed a stunning truth. The great standing stones are merely the surface markers for a vast, hidden complex of carved megaliths and strategically placed mineral deposits buried deep beneath the earth. This entire system was engineered with a single, revolutionary purpose: to amplify and channel the planet's own telluric energy along the pathways we now call ley lines. Think of these lines not as mystical symbols, but as the Earth's own circulatory system, pulsing with a subtle, natural current. The builders of Stonehenge learned to tap this flow. They positioned specific stones, like the unique blue stones transported from distant Wales, not for their beauty, but for their distinct piezoelectric properties. When compressed by their own immense weight or vibrated by seismic activity, these stones would generate a small electrical charge. The entire hidden network was designed to collect and focus these tiny charges, creating a cumulative field of energy that surged along the ley lines. This was a primitive power grid, a geophysical invention that transformed the landscape itself into a conductor. But what was this energy used for? The sacred nature of the site provides the clearest clues. This amplified earth energy could have been harnessed for profound healing, with specific stones acting as focal points where the enhanced field might stimulate the body's own regenerative processes. It could have served as a tool for divination, altering the brainwave patterns of priests and seers to allow for heightened states of perception and vision. There is even compelling evidence that this energy was directed toward the surrounding land, subtly influencing the growth patterns of crops and the health of livestock. This was not magic, it was a sophisticated application of geophysics. The true genius of the system was its invisibility. By burying the core technology, the network's amplifiers and conductors, the builders protected it from tampering and preserved its mystery. The sacred status of the surface circle, with its imposing stones and celestial alignments, acted as a perfect shield, ensuring that no one would think to look for the real engine of power deep below their feet. We are only now beginning to comprehend the scale of this Neolithic invention, a lost science that saw the Earth not as a resource to be mined, but as a living partner to be harmonized with, a source of clean, limitless power that we are still struggling to rediscover. This fusion of science and secrecy finds its ultimate expression in the hidden workshops of the Knights Templar. Excavations beneath their commanderies, like the fortress at Toma in Portugal, have uncovered something far more revolutionary than treasure vaults. These are alchemical laboratories, complete with intricate glass distillation coils and high-temperature furnaces designed for advanced metallurgical experiments. The warrior monks were engaged in a quest that went far beyond simple gold. Within these sealed chambers, they pursued the ultimate alchemical dream, the transmutation of base metals and the creation of the legendary philosopher's stone. This was not mere superstition. It was a rigorous, systematic investigation into the nature of matter itself. Their work represented a breathtaking fusion of devout spirituality and radical science, a combination that the established church viewed as profoundly heretical. In their quest for spiritual purity through physical transformation, the Templars inadvertently pioneered methods that would become the foundation of modern chemistry and pharmacology. They developed new alloys with remarkable properties, and their distilled elixirs and tinctures may have held medicinal knowledge that was centuries ahead of conventional medieval medicine. This is why the laboratories had to be buried. Their research delved into realms of knowledge that challenged the very doctrinal authority of the Church. To be discovered would have meant accusations of witchcraft and devilry, leading to certain persecution and the destruction of their work. The burial was an act of preservation, a desperate measure to protect a nascent scientific revolution from being smothered by dogma. These hidden chambers were not just rooms, they were time capsules, safeguarding fragments of proto-scientific understanding until a future age might be ready to receive them. The Templars chose to bury their most dangerous knowledge not in a distant desert, but directly beneath their own feet, guarding a chemical heresy that could have transformed the world. The same principle of structural resilience echoes through the halls of a different sacred marvel, one that has withstood the tremors of empires. Hagia Sophia has survived for over 1,500 years in one of the world's most active seismic zones, a feat that defies mere chance. The secret to its longevity is not visible to the worshipper gazing up at its grand dome. It is hidden within the very fabric of its construction. The architects embedded a revolutionary form of anti-seismic engineering directly into the building's sacred geometry. They incorporated massive lead-filled recesses and flexible brickwork at critical stress points, creating a system of seismic dampeners that allow the entire structure to sway and settle during an earthquake rather than shatter. Think of it as a colossal shock absorber, built over a millennium before the concept was formally understood. This was a conscious application of physics, a technology born from the devastating necessity of repeated destruction. The knowledge required to calculate the precise placement and quantity of these dampening agents was immense, likely derived from lost Roman or Byzantine engineering texts that treated architecture as a dynamic science. This was not a secret kept in a library, but one literally poured into the foundations and walls of the most important church in Christendom. By embedding this technology within a site of such profound holiness, the builders ensured its protection. The sacred nature of the building discouraged structural alterations that might have exposed or damaged the hidden system, while its continuous use as a place of worship, first as a church and later as a mosque, guaranteed that its core integrity was maintained across centuries. The true genius of this hidden invention is that it works in silence and secrecy, a testament to a civilization that mastered the Earth's violent movements by learning to bend with them, preserving a sanctuary of faith through an act of brilliant, buried engineering. The silent, enduring stones of Hagia Sophia speak of a mastery over the physical world, but an even more ephemeral mastery of light-awaited discovery in the deep darkness of a French cave. The animal figures adorning the walls of Lascaux are not static images. Scientific analysis has uncovered their true nature, a sophisticated luminous paint crafted from a precise mixture of crushed manganese-rich minerals and organic binders. In the absolute blackness of the subterranean chambers, these paintings would have been invisible until activated by the warmth of a human hand or the moist heat of a breath. Then they would glow with a soft, ethereal light, making the great bulls and horses seem to emerge from the very rock, alive and moving in the flickering shadows. This was illumination as a form of magic, a hidden technology that transformed a dark cavern into a dynamic, interactive theater for the most sacred rituals. The creation of this paint was a monumental leap in chemistry. The artists were not merely mixing dirt and water, they were material scientists, understanding how specific minerals reacted to thermal energy and how organic compounds could fix them to a wall for thousands of years. The formula was a closely guarded secret of the shamanic elite, a source of immense power. Imagine the experience of an initiate led deep into the earth. The shaman would approach a blank wall, breathe upon it, and a mighty bison would materialize from the void, its form shimmering into existence as if summoned from the spirit world. This controlled revelation was a psychological tool of breathtaking sophistication, designed to inspire awe, fear, and belief. The concealment of this invention was its ultimate protection. By placing it in a remote, holy place accessible only to a chosen few, the knowledge was kept from rival tribes and preserved within a context of divine mystery. The paint itself was the secret, and the cave was its perfect vault, ensuring that this ancient form of interactive light would remain a powerful, buried wonder until the modern world stumbled upon it, not as a gallery of art, but as the remnants of a lost prehistoric science. 13 centuries before the pendulum clock, a secret beat at the heart of the Chinese Empire, deep beneath Beijing's Temple of Heaven, where the emperor performed sacred rites to harmonize heaven and earth, archaeologists uncovered the remnants of a mechanical marvel, a water-driven clock of staggering complexity. This was no simple timepiece. It was a celestial engine, a network of clepsydras, which are precisely calibrated water clocks, linked together by an intricate system of gears and escapements. Water, flowing from one bronze vessel to the next, powered the entire apparatus, driving gears that turned celestial globes and rang bells to mark the passing of not just hours, but the precise movements of the sun, moon, and stars. This hydraulic computer governed the empire's most critical moments, dictating the exact second for imperial sacrifices and agricultural ceremonies, ensuring that every state action was in perfect sync with the cosmos. To synchronize human ritual with celestial time was to wield a power that was both political and divine. The emperor's authority was derived from this heavenly mandate, and the clock was the ultimate symbol of that connection, a physical proof that he alone could communicate with the cosmic order. This is precisely why the entire mechanism was buried within the temple's foundations. Its intricate bronze gears and delicate water channels were hidden from public view to preserve the mystery, to make the emperor's pronouncements seem like sudden divine inspirations rather than the calculated results of a machine. Exposure would have been catastrophic, revealing the celestial clockwork as a product of engineering, not magic, and stripping the throne of its spiritual legitimacy. The burial was an act of supreme political cunning, protecting a technology so advanced that its principles would not be rediscovered in the West for nearly 1,000 years. This hidden horological science stands as a silent monument to a civilization that mastered time itself, then chose to bury its greatest invention to secure the power of the man who acted as its living face. Magnetic forces pulsed at the heart of ancient Mesoamerican ritual. Deep within the ceremonial plazas of the Olmec civilization, the true pioneers of the region, archaeologists have unearthed extraordinary artifacts carved from a single, unique material, lodestone. These are not merely decorative objects. When tested, these carefully shaped stones, often formed into ritual bars or animal effigies, display powerful and consistent magnetic polarities. Their north and south poles are permanently aligned, a property that could not have occurred by chance. This is the 14th hidden invention, a functional magnetic compass developed over 1,000 years before its celebrated appearance in Han Dynasty China. The Olmecs did not just stumble upon magnetic rocks, they engineered them, shaping the lodestone to amplify its natural properties and carving grooves that may have guided a pivoting needle. The implications are staggering. Imagine a shaman or a navigator holding one of these sacred objects, watching as it consistently oriented itself to the north, providing an unerring guide even under a starless sky or in the dense, trackless jungle. But the purpose likely went far beyond simple wayfinding. The alignments of major Olmec centers, like the great city of La Venta, correspond with uncanny precision to subtle shifts in the Earth's magnetic field. This suggests the lodestones were used for a form of sacred geomancy, a science of aligning temples and plazas with the invisible currents of the planet to harness their energy for spiritual and community well-being. This knowledge was a source of immense power, allowing the Olmec priesthood to demonstrate a seemingly divine connection to the forces of the earth itself. So why bury such a revolutionary tool? A functional compass in the hands of every trader or traveler would have decentralized this power, undermining the authority of the ruling class. Furthermore, it was a key that could unlock the world, enabling voyages across the open ocean that might have connected the Americas to other continents long before recorded history. To conceal the lodestones was to control both spiritual narrative and physical exploration, keeping a society anchored to its heartland and its people in awe of their leader's cosmic connection. This buried technology rewrites the story of discovery, hinting at a world where ancient mariners might have possessed the means to chart the globe, but chose instead to hide the map. A clay jar from 2,000 years ago holds a secret that rewrites the history of power. In the vaults beneath an ancient Parthian temple near Baghdad, archaeologists uncovered a simple-looking artifact, a small terracotta pot that contained a rolled copper sheet, an iron rod, and traces of a long-evaporated acidic liquid, perhaps vinegar or wine. When modern scientists reconstructed this device and filled it with a similar electrolyte, they confirmed a stunning truth. It produced a small but consistent electrical charge, around 1 to 2 volts. This was the Baghdad battery, a functioning galvanic cell from an era we believed was entirely devoid of electrical science. This was not a toy or a curiosity. Its placement within a sacred site points to a deliberate, practical application. Imagine a priest in a hidden workshop connecting several of these jars together to create a stronger current. He could have used this electricity to perform a seemingly miraculous act, electroplating a common metal object with a thin, shimmering layer of gold. A simple copper ring, when dipped into a solution and connected to these batteries, would emerge transformed, gleaming as if touched by the gods themselves. This technology would have been the ultimate tool for reinforcing divine authority, creating sacred relics that appeared to be forged from pure, celestial light. Another possibility is even more profound. Ancient texts from various cultures speak of using electric fish to numb pain and treat ailments. It is entirely plausible that these batteries were used for a primitive form of electrotherapy, with a gentle current applied to the body to reduce inflammation or stimulate healing. The very fact that this object was found in a religious context reveals how such knowledge was managed. Electricity was not an unknown force, it was a restricted one, a powerful phenomenon so closely associated with the divine that its principles were guarded by a priestly class. To understand its mechanics was to grasp a fragment of cosmic power, a secret too dangerous for the common populace. The burial of these batteries was a conscious act of suppression, ensuring that a technology which could have illuminated the ancient world would instead be consigned to darkness for over a millennium, a silent spark waiting to be rediscovered. The quarries of Easter Island hold unfinished giants, statues frozen mid-creation in the volcanic rock of Dura-Europos. The sheer hardness of this basalt presents a riddle that hammers and stone chisels cannot adequately solve. How did the Rapa Nui people carve these colossal figures with such impossible precision, achieving smooth, flowing curves and sharp, angular features in a material that would shatter ordinary tools? The answer may lie not in a physical instrument but in a hidden force, the 16th invention, sonic drilling. Imagine a tool that did not strike the rock but instead sang to it. Researchers now theorize the master carvers used resonant frequencies, tuning specific sonic vibrations to match the internal structure of the basalt itself. When the correct pitch was achieved, the rock would begin to resonate, its own molecular bonds shaking apart, allowing it to be carved with an almost liquid ease. This was not brute force, it was a form of acoustic surgery. Evidence for this technology may be hidden among the quarry's scattered fragments, stones that could be the remains of these sonic devices, perhaps tuning forks or resonant chambers designed to amplify a hum into a precise cutting beam. This knowledge was the exclusive secret of a specialized guild of carvers, a sacred science passed down through generations. They understood that sound could be a more powerful sculptor than any blade. The collapse of their civilization, whether from ecological strain or social upheaval, meant this advanced acoustic engineering was lost, buried not in a physical vault but in the silence that followed. The Moai themselves are the ultimate testament to this lost art, standing as silent witnesses to a time when humanity learned to shape solid stone with nothing but the power of a carefully pitched note. The destructive potential of focused light was not merely a legend whispered in the halls of ancient Syracuse. Historical accounts strongly suggest that Archimedes, one of the greatest minds of the classical world, moved his most dangerous experiments out of sight. He is said to have tested early prototypes of his legendary heat ray in concealed chambers deep beneath the city's temples, far from prying eyes. This was not a simple trick with a few hand mirrors. The invention relied on massive parabolic reflectors, enormous dishes of polished bronze carefully engineered to capture and concentrate the sun's rays into a single, searing point of thermal energy. On the surface, it would have seemed like a divine miracle, beams of sunlight harnessed to set invading Roman warships ablaze from a tremendous distance. But below ground, it was a brutal, calculated application of optics for warfare. The strategic advantage of such a weapon was immeasurable, a way to defend a city without ever firing an arrow or engaging in hand-to-hand combat. Its very existence was a state secret of the highest order. Why then was this brilliant invention so thoroughly buried, both in physical location and in historical record? The answer lies in the horrifying nature of its power. This was one of history's first forays into a directed energy weapon, a clean, silent, and seemingly limitless force that could inflict destruction on a scale previously unimaginable. For the rulers and philosophers of the time, such a technology may have been deemed too dangerous to be widely known or developed further. To unleash it upon the world was to risk an arms race that could consume entire civilizations, turning the sun itself into a tool of annihilation. By hiding the prototypes and suppressing the knowledge, they chose to bury a spark that could have ignited a very different and far more terrifying path for human conflict. Deep beneath the sun-baked cliffs of the American Southwest, the Anasazi engineered a miracle of survival. Hidden under the sacred, circular kivas of their cliff dwellings, they built a labyrinth of stone channels and carefully plastered tanks. This was not a mere water storage system. It was a subterranean aquaculture, a sophisticated form of desert farming that sustained entire communities in a land where surface water was a fleeting treasure. While the world above was a canvas of red rock and dust, the world below was a thriving, hidden ecosystem. Here, in the cool, dark silence, they cultivated fish and nutrient-rich aquatic plants, creating a self-sustaining food source that functioned with the precision of a modern hydroponic farm. The engineering was brilliant in its simplicity. Channels diverted seasonal rainwater and seepage from deep aquifers into these sunken tanks, where it was protected from the relentless desert sun, minimizing evaporation to a tiny fraction of what would occur on the surface. But this was more than just clever plumbing. It was a technology woven directly into their spiritual identity. Water was not just a resource, it was a divine gift, and the act of managing it deep within their most sacred spaces was a form of worship. The priests who oversaw the kivas were not only spiritual leaders, they were the guardians of this ecological knowledge, the engineers of life itself. They understood the delicate balance of pH, the need for water circulation to oxygenate the tanks for the fish, and the symbiotic relationship between the aquatic plants and the animal life. This secret was their civilization's lifeline. To conceal it was a matter of existential necessity. If rival groups or raiders knew the true source of their abundance, their entire society would be vulnerable. The hidden tanks were a vault, safeguarding not just water and food, but the very knowledge of how to live in harmony with a harsh world. This buried invention stands as a quiet testament to a people who did not conquer their environment, but learned to listen to its whispers, turning the desert's scarcity into a secret, thriving garden. The art of secret writing reached a mechanical zenith in the corridors of ultimate spiritual power. Deep within the sealed vaults beneath St. Peter's Basilica, far from the eyes of pilgrims and princes, the Vatican safeguarded an invention of immense political and theological power. Historians and cryptographers now believe the archives contain complex mechanical cipher devices, intricate machines of bronze and wood used by Renaissance popes to encode their most sensitive communications. These were not simple substitution ciphers, but early cryptography machines, employing a brilliant system of rotating disks, interlocking gears, and complex algorithms to scramble messages into an unbreakable code. Each disk was inscribed with a unique alphabet, and as they turned against one another, they created a constantly shifting cipher, a different code for every single letter written. This meant that even if a rival power intercepted 100 messages, cracking one would provide no key to deciphering the next. This technology placed the Papal States at the very forefront of information security, protecting delicate diplomatic negotiations and radical theological decrees from the prying eyes of kings and emperors. The very existence of these machines was a state secret. Their operation was a sacred rite, knowledge confined to a trusted few within the papal chambers. Why were these brilliant devices not celebrated, but instead buried in the most sacred crypt in Christendom? The answer lies in the nature of the power they protected. Absolute authority relies on the control of information. If the method of encoding and decoding papal commands became common knowledge, the Church's ability to direct global politics from the shadows would vanish. The mechanical cipher was a key to a different kind of kingdom, a realm of invisible influence. By entombing these machines within the Vatican's foundations, the Church did more than hide a tool. It sacralized the act of secrecy itself, transforming the science of cryptology into a divine mystery accessible only to the initiated, ensuring that the whispers of power remained forever locked away with the bones of saints. High in the Himalayas, where the air grows thin and the modern world feels distant, ancient texts preserve instructions for a technology that seems to belong to the future. These Tibetan scriptures describe the Vimana not as mythological chariots of the gods, but as sophisticated flying machines. According to long-held oral traditions and the analyses of a handful of dedicated researchers, functional prototypes of these devices were not merely imagined, they were built and tested. The evidence suggests they were then deliberately hidden away in vast, sealed caverns deep beneath sacred monasteries like the Potala Palace. These were not machines powered by fuel or fire, but by a profound understanding of natural forces we are only beginning to rediscover. They are our 20th hidden invention, the anti-gravity levitation platforms of Tibet. The principle was a masterful fusion of physics, harnessing the power of diamagnetism and acoustic resonance. Diamagnetism is a property found in all materials, a weak repulsion to a magnetic field. by using specific, massive stones with powerful diamagnetic qualities, and then subjecting them to precisely tuned sound frequencies. The builders could, in theory, cause these stones to levitate, neutralizing the pull of gravity itself. Imagine a massive stone block placed upon a platform inscribed with sacred geometry. As monks or trained adepts chanted at a specific, resonant pitch, the stone would begin to hum, then shudder, and finally rise silently into the air, hovering as if weightless. This was not magic, but a lost science of vibration and matter. The purpose of this technology was deeply intertwined with the spiritual goal of transcending the earthly plane. The ability to levitate stone was a physical demonstration of a spiritual truth, that enlightenment meant rising above the material world. It provided a practical, awe-inspiring method for constructing immense monasteries in impossibly high locations, places meant to bring one closer to the heavens. So why bury such a transformative invention? The knowledge of anti-gravity was considered too sacred and too dangerous for the common world. In the wrong hands, this science could be perverted into a weapon of unimaginable terror, allowing for dominance through aerial supremacy long before the invention of the airplane. To conceal it was an act of spiritual preservation, ensuring that a power meant for ascension would not be corrupted for conquest. The platforms were disassembled, the resonant tuning forks hidden, and the entrances to the caves sealed, leaving behind only whispers of a time when humanity learned to float and then chose to forget how. The Egyptian obsession with eternity carved its most profound secrets not just into tombs, but into the very chemistry of the desert itself. Concealed in the bedrock near the Valley of the Kings, far from the ornate burial chambers, lie stark, unadorned rooms that modern archaeology is only beginning to understand. These were not treasure vaults, but biological preservation chambers, a 21st hidden invention dedicated to a single, staggering goal: the suspension of death itself. This went far beyond the ritual of mummification. While embalmers worked to create a durable, symbolic vessel for the soul, these hidden laboratories pursued a literal, physical resurrection. Their methods were a chilling precursor to modern cryogenics, a sophisticated manipulation of environment and chemistry. The desert's own extreme temperature swings were a key component, with the chambers engineered to maintain a stable, frigid cold, leveraging the dry, cool air of the subterranean world to slow cellular decay to a near halt. But the true genius was in the unseen alchemy. Evidence points to the use of specific, secret chemical compounds, complex mixtures of natron salts, plant resins, and rare minerals that were not merely desiccants, but sophisticated preservative solutions. These formulas were designed to penetrate tissues and halt biological processes at a molecular level, placing the body in a state of profound suspended animation. The knowledge of these recipes was the most guarded state secret of the pharaohs, a sacred science known only to the highest priesthood. To reveal it would be to unravel the very foundation of their power and their promise of an eternal return. This is why the formulas were never written down, and why the chief chemists were often interred with the pharaohs they served, taking the ultimate secret with them into the sealed darkness. This hidden invention reveals a civilization that viewed death not as an end, but as a scientific problem to be solved, a final frontier to be conquered through a fusion of spiritual belief and radical, experimental biology. They sought to cheat time itself, burying their most audacious hope, a technology of immortality, in the very sands meant to preserve it forever. The desert sands of Syria conceal a darker chapter in our story of buried inventions. Beneath the shattered temples of the city of Dura-Europos, archaeologists unearthed a gruesome and brilliant secret, a terrifyingly effective form of chemical warfare. During a desperate siege, as Roman soldiers tunneled beneath the city walls to breach its defenses, the city's protectors devised a horrific countermeasure. They did not meet the Romans with sword and shield in the dark, cramped tunnels. Instead, they lit a fire, but this was no ordinary blaze. They had prepared a toxic mixture of bitumen and sulfur crystals, substances readily available to them. As the mixture burned, it released a thick, choking cloud of poisonous gas directly into the enclosed tunnel system. The effect was instant and devastating. The Roman sappers, trapped underground with no escape, were overcome. The archaeological evidence is stark and haunting. The remains of soldiers found exactly where they fell, some still in their fighting positions, a silent testament to a weapon that killed without a single blade being drawn. This was not a lucky accident, it was a calculated application of chemistry for warfare. The defenders of Dura-Europos understood the suffocating properties of sulfur dioxide gas, and they engineered a delivery system to maximize its deadly potential. This hidden invention was devastatingly effective, a clear demonstration of how advanced scientific understanding could be twisted into a tool for mass destruction. And that is precisely why the knowledge had to be buried. The use of such a weapon crossed a moral line, even in the brutal context of ancient siege warfare. It was a form of killing that felt unnatural, almost demonic, robbing soldiers of an honorable death in combat. The secret died with the city itself, consumed by the same conflicts it tried to withstand. This grim discovery forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth, that the drive for innovation in the ancient world was not always directed toward enlightenment or survival. Sometimes the most brilliant inventions were born from the darkest corners of human conflict, and their burial was not just an act of preservation, but of conscience. The Maya transformed their central pyramid into a silent, stone-bound observatory. El Castillo at Chichen Itza is far more than a temple. Its 4 stairways and 91 steps forming a perfect calendar in stone. But its true genius is revealed only twice a year, when the sun crosses directly overhead at the zenith point. On the spring and autumn equinoxes, a carefully engineered interplay of light and shadow occurs. The corner of the pyramid casts a series of triangular shadows down the northern balustrade, creating the illusion of a massive, undulating serpent slithering down from the heavens to connect with a stone serpent head at the base. This spectacular light show was not just for ceremony, it was the external marker for a precise internal function. Deep within the pyramid, a narrow, vertical shaft aligns perfectly with this celestial event. When the sun reaches its zenith, a single, sharp beam of light pierces the inner darkness, illuminating a specific marker in a hidden chamber. This was the heart of the zenith telescope, a fixed instrument that used the pyramid's own mass to pinpoint the most critical solar event in the Mayan sky. The entire structure was a scientific device of breathtaking accuracy, designed to calibrate their complex long-count calendar with the unerring rhythm of the cosmos. By observing the exact moment the sun passed directly overhead, the Maya could correct for any cumulative errors in their timekeeping, ensuring their agricultural cycles and religious festivals remained in perfect harmony with the heavens for centuries. This knowledge was the ultimate source of power for the priestly class. They alone could interpret the sun's message deep inside the sacred pyramid, a secret that affirmed their divine connection and their role as the intermediaries between the people and the gods. Burying this technology did not require hiding it in a vault, but something far more clever. They embedded it within the very architecture of their most public and revered monument. The true function of the zenith passage was concealed in plain sight, its scientific purpose woven into a spectacle of such spiritual grandeur that no one would think to look for the simple, brilliant mechanics behind the magic. This fusion of worship and observation stands as a testament to a civilization that saw no divide between the temple and the observatory, proving that the most advanced science was often housed within the world's most sacred spaces. The same desire to control a prestigious technology echoes from the royal courtyards of West Africa. Deep beneath the sacred palaces of the Benin Empire, the earth concealed not treasure, but the very engines of its creation, advanced foundries that perfected a secret art. The famous Benin bronzes, those breathtakingly detailed plaques and sculptural heads, were not merely art, they were the product of a hidden invention, a metallurgical science so advanced it defied the era. The technique was a complex, guarded version of the lost wax process, but it went far beyond simply making a mold. The true secret lay in the unseen details, a precise alchemy of materials and temperature control known only to specialized guilds of artisans. These masters used unique, proprietary mixtures of local clays to create the investment molds that would surround the wax model. The specific composition of this clay was everything. It had to withstand the extreme heat of the molten bronze without cracking, yet be porous enough to allow gases to escape, preventing bubbles and flaws in the final casting. The firing process itself was a carefully timed ritual. Temperatures had to be raised and lowered at exact rates, a delicate dance between melting the wax away cleanly and then baking the clay mold to a state of perfect resilience before the glowing metal was poured in. This mastery over fire and earth resulted in castings of a fineness and durability that European foundries of the same period could not replicate. A single plaque could depict a crowded court scene with countless individual figures, each with distinct facial features, intricate jewelry, and detailed regalia, all captured in sharp, enduring metal. This technology was power. The Oba, the divine king, understood that controlling this art form was central to his authority. The bronze plaques did not just decorate his palace, they were a visual record of his power, his history, and his divine right to rule. To allow the secrets of their creation to spread would be to dilute this power, to enable rival chiefs to create their own symbols of legitimacy. So the foundries were buried within the palace's sacred precincts, their operations shielded by walls and ritual. The guilds protected their knowledge with the ferocity of a state secret, passing formulas and techniques only through oral tradition to trusted apprentices. The burial of this invention was a strategic act of monopoly, ensuring that the voice of the empire would be spoken only through the flawless, silent beauty of its bronze. While the Olmecs oriented their cities with magnetic stones and the Maya tracked the sun with stone calendars, another civilization was perfecting a technology that touched every single citizen, hidden directly beneath their feet. The great cities of the Indus Valley, like Mohenjo-Daro, were built upon a latticework of brick-lined tunnels, a subterranean sanitation network of breathtaking sophistication. This was not a series of simple gutters, but a carefully engineered system of main sewers, street-side drains, and even chutes from individual homes, all designed to use gravity and the natural flow of water to carry waste away from the densely populated urban centers. Imagine the daily life in one of these ancient metropolises, where a person could pour wastewater down a chute in their own dwelling, knowing it would flow into a covered, centralized channel running beneath the street, eventually emptying far from the city walls. This was an early, revolutionary form of urban public health technology, a hidden invention that actively prevented the spread of waterborne diseases that would plague other great cities for thousands of years to come. The true genius of this system was its integration into the city's most vital structures. These sewers ran directly beneath the Great Bath, a massive public tank considered the spiritual and communal heart of the city, and beneath the granaries that held the community's food supply. This was a deliberate, brilliant strategy, placing the technology that protected public health in the same sacred space as the institutions that sustained civic and spiritual life. The knowledge required to maintain a consistent downward slope across an entire city, to design interlocking brick channels that resisted collapse and facilitated cleaning, reveals a profound understanding of civil engineering and hydrology. This hidden network was a primary reason for the civilization's remarkable longevity and stability. So why was this life-saving technology buried and forgotten? The answer lies in its very nature. This was an infrastructure of collective well-being, a communal invention that required a highly organized, centralized society to build and maintain. When that social order eventually fragmented, the knowledge of how to manage such a complex system fragmented with it. The principles of large-scale urban sanitation were lost for millennia, and later civilizations would struggle with plagues and filth that the people of the Indus Valley had ingeniously engineered away. Their greatest invention was not a glittering treasure or a weapon of war, but a simple, clean flow of water, a secret to health that they buried so completely we are only now rediscovering its profound value. Deep beneath the sacred silver mines of Lorien, a different kind of spiral was at work. While the world knows the Archimedes screw for lifting water, a hidden, larger-scale version of this invention was engineered for a far more critical purpose: moving air. In the suffocating darkness of the mine shafts, where toxic gases and stale air threatened every breath, this modified screw became a literal lifesaver. Imagine a massive wooden spiral housed inside a hollow cylinder, its lower end plunged into the deepest, most airless tunnels. As teams of men turned the crank at the surface, the rotating spiral did not lift water. It propelled a continuous column of fresh, cool air downward, forcing the deadly fumes out through separate ventilation shafts. This was industrial safety technology on a grand scale, a mechanical lung for the entire mining operation. The silver extracted from these depths funded the very bedrock of Western civilization, paying for the Athenian fleet that defeated the Persians and for the construction of the Parthenon itself. Democracy and glorious temples were built on a foundation of silver, and that silver was only accessible because this hidden screw kept the miners alive. The engineering guilds who perfected this system guarded it as their most valuable trade secret. To reveal the mechanics of the ventilation screw would be to give rival cities or private operators the key to unlocking their own vast wealth, directly threatening Athenian economic and military supremacy. So the knowledge was buried not in scrolls but in practice, passed down orally within the guilds and physically concealed within the labyrinthine mine works themselves. When the silver veins were exhausted and the mines abandoned, the secret of the air screw was left in the dark, an early and brilliant solution to the perils of the industrial workplace that we would spend centuries relearning. Scattered across the sacred mare of Polynesia, unassuming volcanic stones hold the maps to an ocean empire. These are the Pito, the navigation stones, and they are the 27th hidden invention. To the untrained eye, they appear to be simple ritual objects, but their surfaces are etched with a complex language of grooves, notches, and inlays. Some were deliberately magnetized using naturally occurring lodestone, their invisible fields aligning with the Earth's magnetic poles. Others bore precise celestial maps, with specific pits and lines marking the rising and setting points of key stars and constellations across different seasons. These were not decorative carvings, they were functional astronomical computers, the GPS of the ancient Pacific. A master navigator or wayfinder would use these stones in the secluded temple grounds to teach and recalibrate his mental map of the ocean. He would run his fingers along the grooves, tracing the star paths he called Kavanga, memorizing how the sky would pivot as he sailed from Tahiti to Hawaii, or from the Marquesas to New Zealand. The stone was a permanent, unchanging reference point, a library of the heavens that stored knowledge of currents, seasonal winds, and the subtle star sequences that guided a canoe across thousands of miles of open water. This knowledge was the ultimate source of power and survival for the Polynesian people. It was the key that unlocked the entire Pacific, allowing them to discover and settle every habitable island in a vast triangle covering 10 million square miles of ocean. So why hide such a vital tool? The answer lies in the immense strategic value of this information. If rival clans or unprepared sailors learned the star paths, they could disrupt trade routes, launch surprise attacks, or become lost at sea, draining the community's resources. The sacred nature of the Mari provided the perfect vault. By embedding the navigation stones within the ritual space, the knowledge was protected by spiritual sanction. It was not merely data, it was a divine gift, and its transmission was a sacred trust between master and apprentice. This hidden invention represents a breathtaking fusion of empirical science and deep tradition, where the cold, hard logic of celestial mechanics was seamlessly woven into the living fabric of culture and belief, a secret that turned the endless, empty sea into a pathway home. Long before the first fields were ever planted, the Natufians were already thinking like farmers. Hidden beneath their sacred stone circles and ancestral graves in the Levant, archaeologists have uncovered a quiet revolution sealed inside simple pottery vessels. These were not offerings of food for the afterlife, but something far more pragmatic and profound. They were ancient seed banks, carefully assembled collections of genetically diverse wild grains, a hidden invention that secured the future of an entire people. Each sealed pot was a biological library, preserving the raw genetic material of emmer wheat, barley, and legumes against the threat of famine or a single season's crop failure. This was not random hoarding, it was a deliberate, scientific strategy for long-term survival. The individuals who managed these caches, likely shamanic figures who bridged the spiritual and practical worlds, understood a fundamental truth that modern science has only recently confirmed. Biodiversity is the key to resilience. By preserving many different strains of wild grain, they ensured that if one variety succumbed to a new pest or a shift in climate, another, more resistant strain would be available to restart the harvest. This was the very genesis of systematic agriculture, the moment humanity stopped merely harvesting what nature provided and began actively curating it for generations to come. Placing this technology within their most sacred spaces was a declaration of its ultimate importance. The act of preserving life, of ensuring the continuity of the tribe, was not separate from their spirituality, it was its core tenet. This hidden vault was not just a pantry, it was a covenant with the future, a promise written not on stone but in the dormant potential of 1,000 seeds waiting in the dark earth for their time to rise again. A massive slab of volcanic glass, polished to a perfection that defies its era, lay hidden in the dark heart of Teotihuacan. Sealed in a chamber deep beneath the Pyramid of the Sun, this obsidian mirror was far more than a ceremonial object. Its surface was flawlessly flat, a feat of grinding and polishing so advanced it could reflect a human face with a clarity that rivaled modern glass. In a world without mirrors, such an object would have seemed like a fragment of another realm, a window into the unseen. The priesthood of this mighty city likely used it as a sophisticated optical tool, a hidden invention of staggering precision. During rituals, they may have employed it for scrying, believing its dark, reflective depths could reveal messages from the gods or visions of the future. Yet its purpose was almost certainly grounded in hard science as well. Angled correctly within the sealed chamber, this mirror could have captured beams of sunlight, projecting precise points of light onto marked walls to track the solstices or the movements of Venus with an accuracy impossible for the naked eye. It could even have been part of a larger array, used to reflect signals across the vast city, a silent, instantaneous communication network visible only to the initiated. The secret of its creation was the true source of its power: grinding obsidian, a notoriously brittle and difficult material, to such a perfect planar surface without fracturing it required a technique lost to history, a proprietary knowledge held by a select few. To reveal how it was made would be to demystify the very foundation of the priest's authority. Their divine vision, their ability to communicate with celestial forces and command the populace, was physically embodied in this slab of black glass. Burying it was the ultimate act of preserving that power, ensuring that a technology which offered a glimpse into both the heavens and the human soul would remain a divine mystery, forever locked away beneath the mountain of the sun. The steady rhythm of the tides became a hidden engine for medieval Europe. Along the coastlines, particularly within the fortified seawalls of tidal island monasteries like Mont Saint-Michel, engineers constructed a marvel of renewable energy, the tidal mill. This was not a simple water wheel turned by a river. It was a sophisticated system of sluice gates and reservoirs built into the very foundations of the sacred complex, designed to capture the awesome power of the ocean's daily pulse. As the tide rushed in, massive gates would open, allowing seawater to flood into a large holding basin. When the tide receded, the gates closed, trapping the water. This captive ocean was then released through a narrow channel, where its controlled flow spun a large water wheel with immense force, grinding grain into flour or powering workshops for carpentry and metalworking. This was an invention that literally harnessed the gravitational pull of the moon, a celestial force long associated with the divine feminine and the rhythm of life itself, and put it to work performing mundane, essential labor. The concealment of this technology within the monastery walls was a masterstroke of strategy and symbolism. For the monastic community, it was a perfect illustration of harnessing God's creation for sustainable industry, a practical demonstration of living in harmony with natural law. But there was also a more worldly reason for this secrecy. Feudal lords taxed windmills and river mills heavily, seeing them as clear sources of income and power. A mill hidden within a religious fortress, powered by the invisible and untaxable force of the tide, provided a crucial degree of economic and operational independence from secular authority. It was a quiet rebellion, a way to maintain self-sufficiency under the very noses of the ruling class. These tidal mills stand as a profound paradox, a renewable energy technology that was both spiritually symbolic and politically subversive, buried not in sand, but in the sacred infrastructure of the coast, waiting for the modern world to rediscover the clean, relentless power of the sea. The chronicles of ancient Sri Lanka speak of Vimana, flying chariots, not as myth, but as a tangible technology applied to the impossible. The sheer rock face of Sigiriya, a fortress palace rising dramatically from the plains, is a monument to this lost science. Its construction required moving colossal boulders, some weighing many tons, up a near vertical ascent, a logistical nightmare that conventional ramps and manpower cannot satisfactorily explain. The answer may resonate from hidden, purpose-built chambers carved deep within the rock itself. These were not simple rooms, but acoustic resonance boxes, the 31st hidden invention. Imagine a massive stone block placed in the center of such a chamber. Monastic engineers, trained in the precise harmonics of sacred chant, would fill the space with a specific, powerful frequency. As the sound waves reflected and amplified off the perfectly angled walls, they would create a standing wave, a stable pattern of intense pressure. Within this sonic field, the stone would cease to be a dead weight. The vibrations would effectively cancel out a portion of the gravitational pull acting upon it, making it semi-buoyant, allowing a small team of workers to guide it effortlessly up the rock face as if it were floating on a cushion of air. This was not magic, but an advanced application of wave physics, a principle we now call acoustic levitation, the knowledge of which frequencies to use and how to construct the chambers to amplify them was the most guarded secret of the Buddhist monastic orders. This technology transformed them from simple spiritual leaders into master architects capable of literal miracles, reinforcing their divine authority and enabling the construction of citadels that defied all contemporary understanding of engineering. To bury this knowledge was to protect a power that blurred the line between the physical and the spiritual. If the method of making stone float became common knowledge, the very foundations of their societal structure would crumble. The secret was therefore entombed with the last masters of the art, leaving behind only the silent, soaring rock of Sigiriya as a permanent, bewildering question. A civilization's deepest secret is often its most essential need. Carved into the hidden bedrock far beneath the iconic facade of the Petra treasury lies an invention that turned the desert's breath into life itself. The Nabateans engineered a massive solar still, a hydrological masterpiece of intricate channels and condensation chambers. This system was a direct answer to the arid environment of the Sikh Canyon, a place where surface water was a fleeting mirage but the air itself held a hidden reservoir. During the scorching days, the hot, humid air of the narrow canyon was drawn into the cool, subterranean chambers. As this moist air made contact with the cold stone surfaces, it underwent a rapid condensation process, beading into pure, distilled water that was then channeled into sealed cisterns. This was not a simple collection of seepage. It was a deliberate, chemical-free process of distillation, producing clean drinking water from the atmosphere itself. The genius of this passive solar technology was its simplicity and reliability, functioning day after day without any need for fuel or complex machinery, powered solely by the natural temperature differential between the sun-baked canyon and the earth-cooled chambers. Concealing this invention within the city's most sacred and heavily guarded structure was a stroke of survivalist brilliance. The treasury's ornate facade was more than a tomb or temple. It was the fortified vault for the city's most precious resource. By burying the still deep inside the mountain, the Nabateans achieved two critical goals. They protected the water source from enemy armies who could easily poison or block an open well, and they shielded the entire process from the evaporative power of the desert sun, ensuring that every precious drop was preserved. This hidden technology was the true treasure of Petra, a silent, self-replenishing engine that allowed a magnificent city to flourish in the heart of a barren landscape, proving that the greatest ancient power was not always found in gold or weapons, but in the mastery of the elements themselves. The same reverence for unseen forces that guided pyramid builders also shaped their approach to the human body. Within the sealed compartments of certain Egyptian tombs, far from the golden sarcophagi and jeweled amulets, archaeologists have uncovered a more practical kind of treasure. These are polished lodestones carefully shaped into rods and discs and placed upon flat stone slabs that researchers now call healing tables. This was not a ritual for the dead, but a hidden technology for the living, a sophisticated system of magnetic therapy buried to preserve its power. The priest-physicians of Egypt appear to have understood that the body itself was an energetic system, and that these natural magnets could influence its flow. They would have placed these lodestones on specific points of a patient's body, believing the magnetic field could soothe inflamed joints, ease chronic pain, and accelerate the healing of wounds. Imagine a high priest, a man of both temple and science, using these smooth, cool stones to treat a pharaoh's ailment. The effect, whether from genuine physiological response or powerful placebo, would have seemed like a divine miracle, a direct channeling of the Earth's own force to restore health. This knowledge was the ultimate source of their authority. To control healing was to hold the power over life itself. If the common population understood that pain relief could come from a simple magnetic rock, the mystical authority of the priestly class would evaporate. So this early fusion of physics and medicine was deliberately interred, its principles guarded as a state secret and its tools buried with the master physicians who used them. This hidden invention reveals a civilization that saw no boundary between the energy of the earth and the energy of life, a holistic science that we are only now, with our modern research into pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, beginning to validate thousands of years later. Beneath the towering pyramids of Tikal, where the jungle canopy meets ancient stone, a different kind of temple thrived in absolute darkness. While the world above celebrated the sun god, a secret, sunless agriculture flourished deep underground. Researchers mapping the labyrinthine foundations have uncovered extensive chambers that were not tombs or storage rooms, but sophisticated fungal farms. This was the 34th hidden invention, a masterwork of ancient biotechnology dedicated to cultivating a specific, carefully selected fungus in a perfectly controlled environment. Maintaining these subterranean gardens required a deep understanding of mycology. The Maya engineers had to regulate temperature and humidity with precision, using hidden air shafts and water channels to create a stable, cool, and moist atmosphere where the chosen fungus could thrive without any sunlight. This was agriculture reimagined for a non-photosynthetic organism, a far cry from simple mushroom gathering. It was a cultivated, industrialized process hidden from the population above. The purpose of this secret crop was likely threefold, each reason more compelling than the last. The fungus could have been a powerful source of antibiotics, providing the Maya elite with medicines to treat infections and wounds, giving them a significant advantage in health and longevity over the common people. Alternatively, it might have been a potent religious hallucinogen, used by shamans to induce visionary states and commune with the gods, with a controlled, hidden cultivation ensuring only the priesthood had access to these profound spiritual experiences. There is even a fascinating theory that the fungus was processed and mixed into the architectural mortar that holds the pyramids together, its organic compounds acting as a natural binding agent that gave the limestone structures unprecedented strength and resilience, explaining how these monuments have endured for centuries. This hidden farm was a resource of immense power, affecting health, spirituality, and even the very stability of their civilization. By burying this technology, the Maya elite protected a biological secret that underpinned their authority. If the method of cultivating this miraculous fungus became common knowledge, the perceived divine advantages of the ruling class would vanish. The knowledge of these dark gardens was therefore sealed beneath the greatest symbols of their power, a silent, living technology that fed the body, the spirit, and the stones of an empire, then was forgotten in the deep earth. Our journey through these hidden inventions culminates with a machine that crowned one of the ancient world's most celebrated structures. High atop the great lighthouse of Alexandria, a wonder visible for miles across the Mediterranean, a secret pulsed with mechanical life. This was not merely a fire beacon, but the heart of an ancient computer. Historical accounts describe a complex device housed in the pinnacle, a symphony of polished bronze mirrors, intricate gear trains, and a hydraulic system powered by the relentless flow of seawater. It was a public utility of staggering intelligence. Its primary mirrors did more than reflect a warning flame. They could be angled to capture the positions of ships at sea. This optical data was then fed into the gearwork, which calculated their distance, speed, and likely course, acting as an early traffic control system for the world's busiest port. But its genius ran deeper. The same mechanism, likely connected to celestial charts, could track the movements of stars and planets, and by correlating atmospheric pressure and temperature shifts measured by its internal components, it may have even offered rudimentary weather predictions. This single machine integrated optics, mechanics, and astronomy into a unified whole. It transformed the pharaohs from a simple navigational aid into a true beacon of knowledge, a thinking lighthouse. So why is this magnificent invention our final buried secret? Its fate was likely sealed by its own sophistication. When the lighthouse was damaged by earthquakes, the core mechanism was simply too advanced for later civilizations to repair or even comprehend. The most valuable parts, the precision mirrors and bronze gears, were probably salvaged and hidden away in vaults beneath later fortifications, or simply melted down for scrap. The knowledge required to rebuild it was lost, and the invention itself was buried by the sands of time and shifting human understanding. Its disappearance marks a profound turning point, the loss of a technology that served the public good with a level of integration we would struggle to replicate even today. The silent stones of all these sacred sites hold more than just history. They guard the blueprints for a different path humanity once walked, a road not taken, waiting for us to find our way back. A pattern echoes through these 35 hidden wonders, a deliberate choice repeated across continents and centuries. Each time a civilization reached a certain peak of understanding, it chose to bury its most profound achievements. This was far more than a simple act of safeguarding physical objects. It was a complex cultural decision, driven by a recurring fear that the knowledge itself was too potent, too dangerous for the uninitiated. The sacred site became the ultimate vault, not just for the invention, but for the responsibility that came with it. A priestly class that could make stone float or command the sun's fire held power that seemed divine, and to reveal the engineering behind the miracle was to risk their entire authority crumbling into dust. These technologies were treated not as human creations, but as gifts from the gods, and to bury them was to return a dangerous power to its source, keeping it out of the hands of those who might wield it for conquest or personal gain. This recurring act of concealment created a staggering rupture in human history. It means that our journey of discovery has not been a straight, upward line. We have been climbing a spiral staircase, periodically returning to the same landing, forced to painfully relearn principles of energy, medicine, and physics that were once mastered and then deliberately forgotten. The Baghdad battery was not a precursor to our electrical age. It was a parallel discovery, a path not taken. The acoustic levitation of Tibet was not magic, it was a science that was silenced. Our modern world, with all its innovation, is in many ways a grand rediscovery of what was already known. This hidden legacy forces us to ask a humbling question. How many times has humanity approached a threshold of understanding, only to consciously turn away, sealing the blueprint for a different future in the one place we believed would keep it safe for eternity, the sacred earth beneath our feet? These 35 hidden inventions reveal a past crackling with sophistication, a world where our ancestors achieved wonders we are only beginning to grasp. From the humming acoustic chambers of Malta to the celestial computer in the lighthouse of Alexandria, each buried marvel shatters the quiet, linear story of human progress we so often accept. They force us to confront a history that is not a slow climb from ignorance, but a landscape of brilliant peaks and profound valleys, of knowledge gained, mastered, and then deliberately set aside. This legacy challenges our most basic assumptions about ancient people, transforming them from primitive stone carvers into visionary engineers and physicists. Their work proves that innovation and spirituality were never separate paths. but two sides of the same sacred coin. The greatest secrets were not hidden in forgotten caves or lost cities, but placed deliberately within the world's most revered temples and tombs, shielded by reverence itself. This recurring act of concealment points to a sobering truth that these civilizations repeatedly faced a critical choice: to unleash a technology or to protect the world from it. Perhaps the most important invention we can now recover is not a crystal lens or an anti-gravity formula, but a new perspective. It is a way of looking at history that is open to mystery, that welcomes the enigma, and that understands our past is far stranger and more wonderful than we have been led to believe. Countless other wonders likely remain sealed in the earth, waiting for a shift in the soil or a curious mind to bring them back into the light. Which of these hidden inventions captured your imagination the most? Was it the Baghdad battery with its silent spark of ancient electricity, or the floating stones of Sigiriya lifted by sound? Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe to continue unraveling the deepest mysteries of our